Session is called to order. The chair requests the Honorable Member of Parliament, Faiz Aliuddin, to lead this chamber in the opening prayer.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقال ربكم اشكروني أستجبكم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين اللهم إجا أراد منا أعداؤنا والمنافقون وخائنا وما كنون سوءا في أموالنا وضرا في أنفسنا فاسقلهم بأنفسهم وقولك الحق ثم بكم فهم لا يعقلون ثم بكم لا يبصرون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون اللهم نسألك في نحورهم ونعوذ بك من شرورهم اللهم اكفنهم بما شئت اللهم اكفنهم بما شئت يا الله يا رب اللهم تقبل منا دعاءنا إنك أنت خير المتقبلين وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم صلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم سبحان ربك عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Remain standing for the Philippine National Anthem and the Bangsamoro Regional Hymn.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiliw, dalas ng sinangalan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyag ka ng magiting, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nagagang tutok sa simoy at sa langit ng bagaw, ay hinatang tula, kawin sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na naghihindig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pamay di maghihindig. Lumang ang araw ng walhati pagsingka, mo'y langit sa piling mo. Ang inigaya na pagkay mga amin, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo. Simula noon hanggang ngayon, isa ang naging layon. Magkaisa at magbuklod, karitingan ay marugtong. Tumayo tayo mula sa hamon ng nakaraan, niyapos ang panganib na umalang. Pinangako sa puso at paniniwala, ang ginhawa para sa kabataan. Bangsamoro ay tagumpay, bunga ng pawis, subo at buhay. Kapayapaan, katarungan, ay atin ang nakamtan. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, pagpalain Bangsamoro. Bangsamoro, Bangsamoro, lagi kang mamahalin. Walang pipigil sa damdamin, mga pangako'y tutuparin. Habang buhay kami sa'yo'y magbabantay, mananatili sa puso't isipan. Ang kahapong humimlay na nagbuwis ng buhay, nasa piling na ng may kapal. Bangsamoro ay tagumpay, bunga ng pawis, subo at buhay. Kapayapaan,
Secretariat, please proceed with the roll call.
The Honorable Abbas Ahmad,
Present.
Abbas Harun,
Present.
Abbas Itanay, Abbas Basit Sari,
Present.
Abu Mujib, Adyong Ziaur Rahman, Ahang Abdullah, Alamia Laisa,
Present.
Ali Ibrahim,
Checking of attendance na
Ali
po.
Ilanon Jr., Ali Edi Mapag,
Present.
Ali Cesar, Ambuluto Suarto, Ampatuan Baintan, Anayatin Susana, Asmawil Muslima, Malindong Ali Pangalian, Barahami Namidodi, Basman Anna Tarhato,
Present.
Burahan Akbayan,
Present.
Kandaw Bay Malaya,
Present po.
Dandamon Latif Maysara, Dian Lamusa, Ipatuan sa Bruna, Ibrahim Ahod, Ismail Haji Abdul Aziz, Gayak Abdullah, Gerayador, Hasim Abdullah,
Present.
Hasan Atibli, Iqbal Moger,
Present.
Ismail Rasul, Jajuri Raisa,
Present.
Yatila Muslimin,
Present.
Aaron Bainon, Lidasan Mussolini,
Present.
Loong Don Mustafa,
Present.
Lorena Jose Ribani,
Present.
Makako Abdurauf, Makapaar Abdullah, Makaraya Janel, Makasalong Marjani, Manguda Dato Kadafe, Mantawil Malik, Bastura Dato Tokaw, Bastura City Sahara, Awali Ilamil Bahar, Mitimbang Dato Midpantaw, Mitmog Rasul,
Present.
Mujahid Abdul Muhmin,
Present.
Munoz Hussein,
Present. Present.
Uranon Suaid, Bakasa Mubaida,
Present.
Pak Abdul Wahab, Pangandaman Nabila Margarita,
Present.
Ramos Danila,
Present.
Rimbang Edrisa Nasser, Sakar Madayaw, Salenda Said, Sali Al Said, Saliga Romeo, Talik Ali, Santi Ali, Sani Punduma, Jatar Al-Sad,
Present.
Sema Omar Yasser,
Present.
Sema Romeo, Sheikh Said, Silongan Aida,
Present.
Sulaiman Ali, Tago Paisalin,
Present. Present. Present.
Tan Nabil,
Present.
Uja Sahi, Ulama Melani, Usman Asfar, Yakob Muhammad, UAK Narciso.
Mr. Speaker, 23 members inside the plenary hall, 41 members joining via Zoom, or a total of 64 members of the Parliament responded to the call. I therefore certify the presence of a quorum.
With 64 members responded to the roll call, constituting a quorum as certified by the Secretary General. Parliament will now proceed with the conduct of its official business. Recognize the Honorable Distinguished Majority Leader, MP Attorney Alan ng Ari Jr.
Honorable Speaker Ali Pangalian Balintong, Honorable Deputy Speaker, Presiding Officer, MP Zio Rahman Alonto Adjong, Honorable members of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, those who are in Zoom and those who are physically present, visitors, staff of the MPs, Secretariat, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mr. Speaker, we are now on item number 6, reading and approval of journal of the previous session. Considering that the journal of the previous session has not been attached in the document, Mr. Speaker, therefore I move to dispense with the reading and approval of the previous session, Mr. Speaker.
There's a motion that the reading of the previous journal be adopted, and further move that the same which shall be approved. Is there any objection? That's been seconded. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, we proceed to item number 7. May we request the Secretary General to read the first proposed resolution for today's session.
Secretary General is so requested.
Proposed resolution number 502, a resolution requiring the Ministry of Environment, Natural Resources and Energy, or MENRE, to apprise the Bangsamoro Authority Parliament on the result of the national survey conducted in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. Principal author is MP Baintan A. Ampatuan. Co-authors are MPs Liza M. Alamia, Amil Bahar S. Mawalil, Rasul Y. Mitmag Jr., Suharto M. Ambuludto, and Don Mustafa A. Loong.
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer this to the Committee on Environment, Natural Resources and Energy.
There's a motion that PR 502 be referred to the Committee on Environment, Energy and Ecology. Is there any objection? Hearing none, PR 502 is hereby referred to the Committee on Environment.
Mr. Speaker, may we request the Secretary General to read the next proposed resolution.
Secretary General is so requested.
Proposed resolution number 503, a resolution urging the Bangsamoro government through the Ministry of Public Works to access national funds for its proposed public works and infrastructure projects as mandated by the organic law. Principal author is MP Baintan A. Ampatuan. Co-authors MPs Liza M. Alamia, Amil Bahar S. Mawalil, Rasul Y. Mitmog Jr., Suharto M. Ambuludto, and Don Mustafa A. Loong.
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer this to the Committee on Public Works and Mr. Speaker.
There's a motion that the PR 503 be referred to the Committee on Public Works. Is there any objection? The motion has been seconded. PR 503 is hereby referred to the Committee on Public Works.
May we request the Secretary General to read the next proposed resolution, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary General is so requested.
Proposed resolution number 505, a resolution urging the Office of the Chief Minister to direct the assessment of the status of the transferred projects of the Southern Philippines Development Authority, or SPDA, to the former autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao. Principal author is MP Baintan A. Ampatuan, with co-authors MPs Amil Bahar S. Mawalil, Liza M. Alamia, Rasul Y. Mitmog Jr., Suharto M. Ambuludto, and Don Mustafa A. Loong.
Mr. Speaker, I move to treat this as simple resolution and be transferred for the business of the day.
There's a motion that PR 505 be treated as simple resolution and be included in the business for the day. Is there any objection? PR 502 is hereby treated as simple resolution and shall be transferred to the business of the day.
May we request the Secretary General to read the next proposed resolution.
Secretary General is so requested.
Proposed resolution number 524, a resolution strongly condemning the killing of Omar Zinal and Hamza Rauf and urging responsible agencies, particularly the Bangsamoro Human Rights Commission, or BHRC, to investigate the progress of the case. Author is MP Punduma B. Sani.
Mr. Speaker, I move to treat this as simple resolution and be transferred for the business of the day.
There's a motion that PR 524 be treated as simple resolution and therefore be included in the business for the day. Is there any objection? Hearing none, PR 524 is hereby treated as simple resolution and shall be included in the business for the day.
Mr. Speaker, may we request the Secretary General to read the next proposed resolution?
Secretary General so requested.
Proposed resolution number 526, a resolution condemning the violence, discrimination, and murder committed against some members of LGBT or lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender in the municipality of Datupiang last September 18 and 19, 2021. Authors are MPs Susana S. Anayatin, Maysara D. Latif, Bainon G. Caron, Muslima A. Asmawil, and Narciso C. U. Eke.
Mr. Speaker, I move to treat this as simple resolution and be transferred for the business of the day.
There's a motion that PR 526 be treated as simple resolution and therefore be included in the business for the day. Is there any objection? Any second? PR 526 is hereby treated as simple resolution, shall be included in the business for the day.
Mr. Speaker, we proceed to item number 9, second stage of bills. BTA Parliament Bill number 1110. Mr. Speaker, may we respectfully recognize MP Baintan of Patwa to deliver her sponsorship speech, Mr. Speaker.
The distinguished lady from Maguindanao, the Honorable Member of Parliament, Engineer Baintan Adil Ampatuan, is recognized to deliver her authorship speech.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Mr. Speaker, same colleagues in this August Parliament, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. It is my honor to sponsor proposed BTA Bill number 110, entitled An Act Creating the New Geographic Areas District Engineering Office, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. Last Monday, September 22, 2021, we have witnessed the turnover of the Cotabato City District Engineering Office from the DPWH National to the Ministry of Public Works, Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. We congratulate the Intergovernmental Infrastructure Board for this successful turnover.
Recording in progress.
However, Mr. Speaker, the turnover was limited only to the properties and equipment of the former. Personnel and staff complement, as well as programs and projects, were not included. Thus, Mr. Speaker, the necessity to create our own organizational staffing and programs and projects intended for the new geographic areas, Mr. Speaker. Executive Order number 292, instituting the Administrative Code of 1987, states that the state shall maintain an engineering and construction arm and continuously develop its technology for the purposes of ensuring the safety of all infrastructure facilities and securing for all public works and highways the highest efficiency and the most appropriate quality in construction. Engineering districts are essential and necessary in the development of the country. Without them, the implementation of priority projects such as the construction, maintenance, and rehabilitation of roads and bridges, as well as flood control projects and other infrastructure, important infrastructure, would be impossible to realize. This bill seeks to establish a new geographic area district engineering office in Cotabato City, covering all its 37 barangays and the 63 barangays in Cotabato province. Currently, there is no district engineering office in the city, except that we have witnessed what was turned over last Monday. The former DO had been abolished following the official inclusion of Cotabato City in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. It is necessary that government offices are readily accessible in areas that need them the most. The new geographic areas district engineering office will be able to provide quality public infrastructure and maintenance services in the area of jurisdiction. It is expected to bring important benefits to the lives of those residing and those who are doing business in Cotabato City and the 63 barangays of Cotabato Province, former Cotabato Province. Improvements in the quality of infrastructure services will also help cut the cost of doing business and will result in positive economic value that can stimulate job creation, encourage private investments, improve productivity, and ensure the well-being of the Bangsamoro people. Given these reasons, Mr. Speaker, I humbly recommend to this Parliament to concur with the passage of this bill. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Ampatuan. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer this to the Committee on Public Works and
BTA
Committee
Bill,
on Finance, Budget, and Management.
BTA Parliament Bill number 110 is hereby referred to the Committees on Public Works and Budget and Finance.
Mr. Speaker, may we recognize MP Amir Mawalil to deliver his sponsorship speech on BTA Parliament Bill number 128.
The distinguished gentleman from Sulu, the Honorable MP Mawalil, is recognized to deliver his authorship speech on Parliament Bill number 128.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Floor Leader, fellow members of this Parliament. Mr. Speaker, it normally takes 5 to 6 to 7 hours to travel from Sitangkay to reach Bungao, the capital town of Tawi-Tawi, where the most accessible hospital, the Datu Halon Sakilan Memorial Hospital, is located. Mr. Speaker, patients from this first-class municipality of Sitangkay have had to endure long sea journeys just to ensure their kin who are sick or their relatives who are sick can get admitted into the hospital or just to get a checkup. This burden, Mr. Speaker, on the people of Sitangkay must be eased. The municipality of Sitangkay, Mr. Speaker, is one of the most populated island municipalities in Tawi-Tawi. It is the southernmost part of the country of the Philippines and is very, very close to Malaysia and Indonesia. Providing medical services, Mr. Speaker, should be a priority for the Bangsamoro region, especially in the town of Sitangkay. Mr. Speaker, we all know too well how the COVID-19 pandemic overwhelmed government institutions, most especially our healthcare services and facilities. The country is confronted with shortages in bed spaces for hospitals, exhausted and limited number of healthcare providers and specialists. Mr. Speaker, even the admission of non-COVID patients had to be declined hospital services due to overcrowding. However, Mr. Speaker, in remote areas in the region which lagged behind for so long in terms of services, the communities in the Bangsamoro region did not simply have any opportunities or had limited access quality health care. As the Parliament of this region, of the Bangsamoro people, it is our duty to make this opportunity available, quality and accessible health care. 2017 statistics shows that only 33.6% of women in the region gave birth attended by healthcare providers. This is less than half of the national estimate. In the absence of quality and accessible health care, detection of underlying illnesses for both the young and the elderly poses risk of them not being treated or simply attended, Mr. Speaker. A healthy Bangsamoro citizen with optimum wellness is an indication of the success of this region, Mr. Speaker, of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. Section 15, Article 2 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution declares that the state shall protect and promote the right to health of the people and instill health consciousness among them. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, Section 11, Article 8, Article 13 declares that the state shall adopt an integrated and comprehensive approach to health development that shall endeavor to make essential goods, health, and other social services available to all people at affordable cost. Mr. Speaker, likewise, Section 22, Article 9 of the Bangsamoro Organic Law provides for the Bangsamoro government to adopt a policy on health that provides for a comprehensive and integrated health service delivery for its people. In consonance with this policy, Mr. Speaker, it is the mandate of the Bangsamoro government to establish by law a general hospital system to serve the health requirements of its people and ensure the individual basic right to life shall be attainable through the prompt intervention of excellent and medical services. Mr. Speaker, this bill proposes to establish a level 1 general hospital with 50 beds in the municipality of Sitangkal in the province of Tawi-Tawi. This proponent, Mr. Speaker, seeks to have a general hospital created in this area to address the gaps in access to healthcare and to bring medical services closer to the people who live in the municipality of Sitangkal. With this, Mr. Speaker, I humbly ask that we fast track and pass this landmark for the people of Sitangkal legislation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Mawalil. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer this to the Committee on Health and the Committee on Finance, Budget and Management.
PTA Parliament Bill number 128 is referred to the Committee on Health and the Committee on Budget and Finance.
Mr. Speaker, again, may we respectfully recognize MP Amir Mawal to deliver his sponsorship speech on PTA Parliament Bill number 130.
Once again, MP Amir Mawalil is recognized.
Again, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and also thank you to the majority floor leader and to my members, to the fellow members of this parliament. Mr. Speaker, I'm honored to appear before this parliament today as I deliver a sponsored speech for the enactment of a measure for the creation of a Bangsamoro Regional Nutrition Council. This piece of legislation is vitally important to the health and welfare of our constituents and to the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. Mr. Speaker, according to the Food and Agriculture Organizations of the United Nations, food insecurity and malnutrition represent serious impediments to sustainable development, poverty reduction, equity and achievement of the region's development goals. Malnutrition, Mr. Speaker, especially among children, is strongly linked with higher rates of disease and premature death. It also has adverse effects on crucial stages of child development, leading to cognitive and behavioral deficits, learning disability, and ultimately, Mr. Speaker, to an uncompetitive workforce. Thus, Mr. Speaker, studies have shown that when people have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food, to meet their dietary needs. It also results in a wide range of benefits for the community, including economic growth and job creation, and lastly, poverty reduction. Mr. Speaker, at a very basic level, this bill aims to address these issues for the benefit of the Bangsamoro people, especially for our children. At present, across the region, a significant number of them do not have access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food. Mr. Speaker, according to the 2015 National Nutrition Survey in BAR, the prevalence of stunting was at 45.2% among children under 5 years old and 44% among children aged 6 to 10 years old. And these are very high, Mr. Speaker, based from the World Health Organization cut-off scores. Mr. Speaker, consequently, there were still 19.5% nutritionally at risk pregnant women, and 10.9% chronically energy deficient lactating mothers. These undernourished pregnant women will give birth to low birth weight and stunted infants. Mr. Speaker, on a policy level, during the drafting of the first Barn Food Security and Nutrition Roadmap, several emerging issues on nutrition in the Bangsamoro region were identified by the participants. And these are the following. Number one, lack of awareness on the relevant laws on food security and nutrition due to absence of community consultation results to poor implementation of the existing policies on nutrition. Number two, Mr. Speaker, lackluster involvement and participation of the private sector and or stakeholders. And lastly, number three, Mr. Speaker, lack of integrated plans and programs between and among government agencies due to absence of an entity institution which will ensure the adoption of convergence approach and set guidelines for an effective harmonized planning and implementation of the government's various programs. From this, Mr. Speaker, we can easily deduce the attainment of food security and our regional nutrition goals require a coordinated multi-sectoral approach and involves the efforts of different government agencies. With that said, Mr. Speaker, this representation as the principal author of this measure intends to champion this bill, which is aimed at improving food security and nutrition in the region. Mr. Speaker, it includes initiatives such as, number one, the creation of an interagency mechanism coordinated at a high level of government and responsible for effecting policy reforms and programs on nutrition. Number two, Mr. Speaker, the institution of a multi-stakeholder platform at local level for the design, implementation, and monitoring of nutrition strategies. Number three, Mr. Speaker, the development of monitoring mechanism for better coordination and harmonization of actions on nutrition by local government units, civil society.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. In three committees, Mr. Speaker.
And there's also a motion that Parliament Bill number 130 be also referred to the Committee on Social Services.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we proceed to the business for the day. We are on resolution number 505, may we respectfully recognize the, before that, Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of interpellation and debate. And after I respectfully move to, may I respectfully recognize MP Baintan and Paton, Mr. Speaker.
For the appreciation of Parliament resolution number 505, the period of debate and interpellation is hereby open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Mr. Speaker, esteemed colleagues in this August Parliament, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. It is my honor to sponsor proposed resolution number 505, entitled Resolution Urging the Office of the Chief Minister to direct the assessment of the status and condition of the transferred projects of the SPDA to former ARMM. Republic Act number 6734, otherwise known as Organic Act for the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, created an oversight committee for the purpose of supervising the transfer of powers and functions of certain government line and agencies, recommends that the projects of the SPDA or the Southern Philippines Development Authority be transferred to the Autonomous Regional Government of the ARMN. Under Executive Order 142, Series of 1993, signed by former President Fidel V. Ramos, transferred the project of SPDA to the ARMN, to the defunct ARMN. These projects located in the ARM region, now BARM, are as follows: Kapatiran Agro-Industrial Cooperative Settlements, Maguindanao Integrated Development Project, Lake Buluan Development Project, Lake Lanao Fiscades Project, and Integrated Marine Fisheries Development Project. The status and condition of the aforementioned projects will have to be ascertained by the Bangsamoro government, considering that these projects can either be an assets or liabilities of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region that require policy measures and options. For this reason, I humbly recommend to this Parliament to concur with the passage of this resolution. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Ampatuan. Majority Leader.
Yes, any members of the Parliament would like to interpellate.
I have a one inquiry to the lady from Maguindanao, the proponent. Has she also contemplated on those assets located in areas where the no vote prevailed during the plebiscite? I'm talking about the Kabakan complex in Zamboanga City. Does she know what is the status of that?
Mr. Speaker, this resolution is specifically mention of the properties that were transferred to the defunct arm from the SPDA.
Thank you. Thank you. Majority Leader.
Yes, MP Paisalin, MP Jose Lorena, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from Sulu, MP Lorena, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Leader. I just have some inquiry to the proponent. This is relative to SPDA. We remember that under 1954, there is already an SPDA arm. Do you know what is the status now of SPDA arm? Madam Sponsor.
Mr. Speaker, as we all know, all those institution offices and bodies operating in the defunct arm were already abolished by virtue of the Republic Act 11054, Mr. Speaker.
I understand that even if it is abolished, record should have been forwarded to an agency by this abolished agency. Do you know if there is an agency that assumes the responsibility of monitoring the projects and programs of the SPDR?
Mr. Speaker, I just browse, but I don't know, I'm not so certain. But I just browsed the Bangsamoro Autonomy Act number 13 or the Bangsamoro Administrative Code. And I didn't find any structure that pertains to this to the SPDA, Mr. Speaker, unfortunately. But I just don't know how the operation of the defunct SPDA ARMM translated in the current setup, and that's why it is very important that we should look into it. Whether there's a body that caters or that looks into our resources or properties under the SPDA, this is very important that we should know what is the status of all these properties.
Thank you, Madam Sponsor. The second question is SPDA is a corporate body, if I understand it correctly, because it has its own charter. In the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao, is SPDA also a corporate body, from your understanding?
Yeah, I think it's part of the GOCCs, Mr. Speaker, as listed in the list of the GOCCs in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. But as to the status of all these properties, Mr. Speaker, we don't know. And that's why we are calling the government of the day to look at what is the status of these properties.
I ask that because, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, because if it is a corporate body, then it must have its own charter. And the provision of 11th Administrative Code will not in any way affect the charter of the SPDA arm if it is a corporate body. So that's my question. Leading to that, if there is indeed an abolition of the SPDA, would you be leading this resolution towards the establishment of a corporate body similar to SPDA arm to look into the assets, obligations, and responsibilities of SPDA? Madam Sponsor.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I think we are not so sure about the current structure, if it's existing or not. But we're certain that we don't know what is the status of all those programs and projects that were formally turned over to the defunct arm. So I think even if there is a current structure or there is a continuation of the SPDA arm, right now, we do not know the exact status. But what is very important, Mr. Speaker, is if there is a structure right now that exists from the arm to the DARMM, it is important that we should determine what is the extent or what is the status of our resources, of our properties, major properties that belongs to the SPDA. It's good that if there is no structure, we should, I think, look at it and create one, and perhaps make a policy on its creation if there is no existing one. But the bottom line is we need to know what is the status of all the properties, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Last question, Mr. Speaker. Are you asking the Office of the Chief Minister to appraise on the assumption that the turnover from Governor Mujib Hataman of all assets, liabilities, obligations of the old arm are transferred to the Chief Minister's office? Is that the idea of this resolution, and putting the assumption and putting the responsibility rather to the Chief Minister?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, because based on the BOL, all those assets, properties of the previous or the defunct arm should be transferred to the Bangsamoro government. And it has been more than 2 years that the Bangsamoro government exists. So in between that period, we do not know what happened to all these properties, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the period of amendment, I might look into a proposed amendment to this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a follow-up inquiry relative to that.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. I would like to know the reason why the proponent limited the scope of her resolution on the existing programs and do not include some assets of the SPDA. I believe the Mindanao Marawi Marawi Hotel, the Ayala Marawi Resort Hotel, was also part as an asset of part of the asset of SPDA. I would just like to know, would she, based on her research, I'd like to know what is the status and why she did not include those assets part of the coverage of her resolution.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, the reason behind that is based on the 6734. These are explicit, these enumerated five uh, projects were the specific projects that were turned over. With regards to the Marawi Resort, there could be some other measures or other issuance that govern that, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. But would she allow, for example, if there are amendments in the period of amendment to include those assets cited by the gentleman from Sulu in by this representation?
Mr. Speaker, if it's within the mandate of the SPDA, I'm open to it, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Majority Leader?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. MP Ali Sanki, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from Maguindanao, the Honorable Member of Parliament, Ali Sanki, recognized.
Thank you very much, sir. I just would like to ask the proponent of this resolution whether out of this listed project to be handled by the new entity that will be created, is she aware of the nature of this project? Because it appears that there are two classifications of this project, corporate and non-corporate. Are you aware of the nature of the function of the Kapatid Agro-Industrial Cooperative Settlement as compared to the Lake Buluan and Lake Lanao, which engage in aquaculture?
Mr. Speaker, I didn't dwell on the specific powers and functions or the specific details of the programs and projects. But what I want to know is the status of these properties, Mr. Speaker.
Just a food for thought for the proponent. The Kapatiran Agro-Industrial Cooperative Settlements is consists of about 24,000 hectares. This was created to resettle the grip of Commander Nara. So it's a settlement. It can be a land for the landless program. And that if you lump this non-corporate venture with the other corporate venture, I would suggest that we must delineate and create probably 2 units out of your proposal. Non-corporate and corporate.
Mr. Speaker.
Because you have also mentioned proposal that in the case of the project, Lake Buluan Development Project, you want that this will be turned over to the local government unit or wherever this project like Lake Lanao Piscine Project will be turned over to the LGU.
Mr. Speaker.
Is this the intention of this bill to turn over?
Mr. Speaker, what we want to know first is the status, Mr. Speaker. And if we will be certain of the status of these properties, be it asset or became a liability, the next policy would depend on the status, Mr. Speaker. But the citation about the preferential rights of the LGU is an standing law or provision of the law that can be used later on as an option if we intend or if the government of the day or if the leadership would intend to dispose these properties, Mr. Speaker. But the specific policy really would vary on the result of the assessment, Mr. Speaker.
Mr.
Recording in
142.
progress.
I'm referring, Mr. Speaker, to the Marawi Resort Hotel. It's a corporate project, corporate venture of SPDA, but I was surprised why it was not turned over when Executive Order 142 was very clear that it must be turned over. So I would suggest to the proponent to get further the list of those SPDA properties that are supposed to be turned over to the arm and now under the BARM. And if the proponent will agree, I would suggest that this body to be created will consider the corporate and non-corporate nature of all these projects that will be turned over to the BARM. Will the proponent agree to that?
Mr. Speaker, I think we leave it to the discretion of the government of the day. If they would pursue further on the basis
Recording in
There is now a
progress.
problem. That area is 572 hectares. 117 hectares is now occupied by the airport, plus 5 hectares used military as a capital training ground, or 123 hectares owned by SPDA taken over by the military. So there's still a balance of 300 plus hectares that is supposed to be turned over to the arm. Are we going to conduct an inventory of this, or shall we just sleep on it? Because the arm will to conduct the immediate turnover, acceptance of the turnover when there was that executive order 142, for them to accept the turnover.
I think the intention of the resolution merely requires or merely suggests or merely implores the government of the day
to do
to conduct a research and assessment over the programs which are to be absorbed or to be again to be transferred for the BARC. And I would suggest that the discussion should limit on the intention. Gentleman from Maguindanao can perhaps propose an amendment later on.
Yes,
And if the proponent so wishes to include the assets and some other issues pertaining to SPDA, then that would be very much appreciated by the body, by the parliament.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, the corporate and non-corporate
Yes.
nature of SPDA, which was turned over to the arm and BARM now, should be properly delineated. You will recall that one of the corporate project of SPDA was Lake Buluan Development Project. It has its own built-in ice plant. And when this was turned over to the arm, the ice plant was sold. Who sold the ice plant? When that is supposed to be taken care of by the arm.
Okay.
Before it was properly turned over, the ice plant is missing.
Yes.
So if ever we want to develop Lake Buluan, there must be that ice plant component to serve the aquaculture operation. So I would suggest to the proponent to delineate the corporate and non-corporate, but still it must be turned over to this new entity that is proposed by the honorable proponent of this bill. Will the honorable proponent accept that proposal? Delineating the corporate and
Yeah, Mr.
non-corporate.
Speaker, I
We
would
will,
like
yes, again, well, with due respect to the proponent, any proposal to improve the version, the current
Yes,
version
yes.
of the draft will be discussed and will be tackled in the period of amendment. The gentleman can propose, but at the proper time, we will ask again the lady proponent if she is willing to accept any amendments that would necessarily amend or improve the version of our current draft.
I would like Speaker to congratulate the proponent because this is really a very inspiring proposal. This should have been long done by the ARM, and now it's being done by BARM through the honorable report of Bayantan, and I'm really happy and congratulate her for taking this initiative.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
Majority Leader,
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period of interpellation and debate.
there's a motion to close the period of interpellation and debate on PR 505. Is there any objection? It has been seconded. The period of debate interpellation is hereby closed.
Mr. Speaker, can we have a 15
amendments na, hindi ka na magana.
15-minute break for us and prayers?
Session is suspended for 15 minutes. Leader, Honorable Member of Parliament, Gaddafi Mauna Dato is recognized to take over the flow of the plenary.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under business for the day, on the proposed resolution number 505, status is a period of amendment, and I move, Mr. Speaker, to open the period of amendments.
Period of amendment on PR 505 is hereby open.
Mr. Speaker,
Any member of the Parliament wishes to introduce some amendments of the proposed resolution number
Majority Leader,
505?
The gentleman from Sulu, MP Lorena, please proceed with your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Majority Leader. If the gentlewoman from Maguindanao would accept, I propose that we enlarge the coverage of this resolution by requiring the Chief Minister to submit to the Parliament a report detailing the assets, liabilities, and programs and projects of the SPDA as turned over to the arm pursuant to as it is hereby resolved that to urge the Office of the Chief Minister to submit a comprehensive report detailing the assets, liabilities, and programs and projects originally turned over by the SPDA to the ARMM pursuant to Republic Act 6734 as amended by 1954, now within the jurisdiction of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. That will be my proposed amendment, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. But before we ask the lady proponent to respond, we will allow the Secretariat to finish with the encoding of the proposed amendment so that we can be on the same
Submit,
page.
Mr. Speaker. I submit.
Thank you. Thank you.
Secretariat, it's not by. It should be SPDA to the arm, not by the arm. To the arm. It's not by. It should be SPDA to the arm, Secretariat. Then, before the Office of the Chief Minister, it should be urged D. Article D, PHE, urge the Office of the Chief Minister. Then remove be requested to submit. Instead, to urge the Office of the Chief Minister to submit. There will be no request anymore, be requested. Should be removed. To submit. To submit, yeah, remove B, yes. To submit a comprehensive report detailing the assets, liabilities, the programs and projects originally turned over.
Turned over, past tense, turned with ED.
Yes, turn over, my ED. ED, turn over by the SPDA to the arm pursuant to Republic Act number 6734 as amended by RA 9054 to the Parliament. To submit to the Parliament. It should not be official to submit to the Parliament. At the second line, to submit to the Parliament a comprehensive report. Secretariat, the Office of the Chief Minister to submit to the Parliament Hello, Secretariat?
Yes, they are writing down your
Submit
proposed
to the
amendment.
Yes, to submit to the Parliament. Yeah, that's it.
So we have to remove the lines,
Remove
the
to submit at the
paragraph.
same deadline. Yes.
Okay.
Public Act number 94. Now within the jurisdiction of the BARM.
Okay, we will ask the proponent if she is accepts
Mr.
the
Speaker,
proposed amendment of MP.
Speaker, actually, there was the resolution. Speaker, can we have counter? Or if you
Yes, yes.
we
Can do so, PM Patuan. Proceed.
Yes.
The period.
It's here that the office of the chief minister shall submit
to the title already.
Okay, so is there any member who would also wish to propose an amendment to the body to be included in one of the whereas clauses? I think MP Patuan, there was a mention of Marawi Resort Hotel. And since we have expanded the coverage of your resolution to include the asset of SPDA, would the lady proponent accept a proposal, maybe from this representation, perhaps, to include among the listing the Marawi Resort Hotel to be specified under the listing she's initially cited?
Mr. Speaker, if it's part of the executive order 142, as mentioned in the resolution, it is covered based on the amendment, Mr. Speaker.
All right.
Mr. Speaker, on the title, I guess we remove the word urging. A resolution requesting the office of the chief minister.
Yes, MP Ali Sanki. The gentleman also mentioned Marawi Resort
MP
Hotel.
Sanki is recognized.
Yes, MP Sanki, you mentioned about Mindanao Marawi Resort Hotel, sorry, earlier during your exchanges with MP Baintan. Would you like to propose an amendment to that effect?
I would like to propose an amendment to the listing of properties to be acquired from
Okay.
SPDA.
Please proceed, Your Honor.
Among others, Mr. Speaker, was that there is a property which is not included here, property of SPDA, whose operation includes Ligawasan Mars, which is part of the arm. I am referring to a project of SPDA in Ligawasan Mars. This it's not included here.
So can you, yes, can you please cite directly those programs or projects that you would like to propose as part of the resolution?
That we have to include in this listing the Ligawasan Mars Development Project. It's not listed here, but it is part of the project of SPDA that pursuant to Executive Order 142 should have been turned over to the arm.
Yes, okay.
So it was not included, like that of the Marawi Resort Hotel, which is covered by Executive Order 142 to be turned over to arm, but still not turned over.
So we have to amend Ligawas Mars Development Project and Marawi Resort Hotel.
Yes, to be included in this listing of SPDA project that will have to be covered by this Parliament BTF resolution number 505.
Okay,
Will
thank you,
the
Your Honor.
proponent agree to that?
Would you agree to that, MP Patuan?
Mr. Speaker, I reviewed Executive Order 142 and it specifically mentions the five projects. However, Mr. Speaker, with the agreement that we should expand the coverage, Mr. Speaker, we can include another whereas or another paragraph that captures other properties such as the two projects.
Okay.
Other properties of SPDA found.
We will not include in that enumeration because based on EO 142, these are explicitly enumerated as five projects.
So we will instead introduce a paragraph, whereas
Another
clause.
paragraph that would capture the other two projects. Since we expanded the coverage of the request.
Okay, while we do that, may I call for a 1 minute suspension?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Session suspended.
Mr. Speaker.
Session resume. Majority
Mr.
Leader.
Speaker, can you direct the Secretariat to read the language of the proposed resolution on the, I mean,
Yes.
to the proposed amendments on the proposed resolution number 505?
Yes. For the information of our colleagues on the Zoom, the proponent, the lady proponent of this resolution, MP Baintan and MP Ali Sanki, agreed not anymore to cite specific programs, but to simply put a general provision to cover all programs, projects, and assets of SPDA. So that would be the new formulation of the proposed amendment by MP Ali Sanki. Will the lady proponent accept the proposal?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I accept.
Okay, so it's been accepted. Majority Leader?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Can the Secretariat read the language of the proposed amendments?
Secretariat is so directed. So please read.
The amendment on the title is a resolution requesting the Office of the Chief Minister to submit to the Parliament a comprehensive report detailing the assets, liabilities, programs, and projects originally turned over by the SPDA to the ARM pursuant to Republic Act number 6734 as amended by Republic Act 9054, now within the jurisdiction of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. And the amendment in the body, Mr. Speaker, is an additional whereas the comprehensive report should also include other projects and assets of the SPDA.
And
on the resolution part, now therefore be it resolved, as it is hereby resolved, that the Office of the Chief Minister shall submit to the Parliament a comprehensive report detailing the assets, liabilities, programs, and projects originally turned over by the SPDA to the ARM pursuant to Republic Act number 6734 as amended by RA 9054, now within the jurisdiction of the BARM.
So any other amendments? Any other amendments? Majority Leader?
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt the proposed resolution number 505.
We will close first the period of...
Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period of amendments.
There's a motion that period of amendment be closed. No objection. Period of amendment is hereby closed.
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt the proposed resolution number 505.
There's a motion to adopt proposed resolution number 505 as amended. Is there any objection? Hearing none, proposed resolution number 505 is hereby adopted.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Congratulations, MP Patuan.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. May I ask for a 1-minute suspension?
Session suspended.
Mr. Speaker.
Session resumed.
Mr. Speaker, another item under business for the day is proposed resolution number 524. Can the Secretariat read the title of the proposed resolution number 524?
Secretariat is so directed to read the title.
Resolution number 524 is a resolution strongly condemning the killing of Omar Zinal and Hamza Rauf and urging the responsible agencies, particularly the Bangsamoro Human Rights Commission, to investigate the progress of the case.
Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of debate.
There is a motion, period of debate and interpellation on PR 524 is hereby open. Any members? The gentleman from Sulu, MP Amir Mawalil, you're recognized. May we respectfully request the proponent, the honorable gentleman from Marawi City, MP Sultan Pendumasani, to please take the rostrum and a response to the inquiries on the floor. MP Mawalil, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just one question, clarificatory question. Because in the third whereas, no, the fourth whereas of the resolution, it says here that whereas this is not the first shooting incident happened inside the campus and must be immediately addressed and acted upon by responsible agency. I would just like to ask the proponent, based on his recollection, how many incidents of shooting happened inside the campus for the last few years?
Thank you very much for allowing me to look into this matter. Being a former dean of the Mindanao State University College of Physical Education, Athletic and Recreation, I am privy to what happened for the last 40 years that I was in the university. Although I was tagged as professor by day and Muslim rebel leader by night. So, with regard to that question, there is a perennial incident ever since, and it don't give justice to the victim. Considering MP Mamali, that it is a university, do we have something like 20,000 area of responsibility, but particularly within, it has only something like 10 hectares, of which the university could provide security by giving seminars on the student on personal security. This is very important. But there was never, Mr. Speaker, a seminar, even on the security guard, on protective security to protect the constituents of the Mindanao State University. We must bear in mind an issue not full on deep air, wag po natin kaligtaan, that the Mindanao State University produces thousands of employees, even in the farm. Napakarami na nagtatrabaho dito galing sa Mindanao State University. And ang nakakatakot dito, Mr. Speaker, time and again, there was a rumor that the Mindanao State University will be replaced as headquarters for the army. Unlikely, because I don't believe that that will happen. On the other hand, if there is more killing, MP Mawali, this could be a reason for the government to look into this matter and the possibility that the Mindanao University be replaced by other institutions. And this we cannot allow, because from tawi-tawi, Bulu, and all of this area, most of the students who graduated with the university are, we are very, very proud of this. And we cannot allow that, because if I will be asked, MP Mawali, out of delicadeza, the administrator, even the president of the university should resign, because we cannot allow, if a house or building will be destroyed, we could replace that. But, soul, pumatay ka ng batang inosente. At namatay ito because of the responsibility of the president of the university. He cannot deny that he should look into this. So far, there were more than 10. As you asked, how many? But the late incident of Hamza and the other person, no, within the only 5 hectares, you know this, you are previous to this, Mr. Speaker, that it's only a very small area. You know how come that there were more than 100 security guard, 100, because during the time of Mawiyag Tamano, Honorable Mawiyag Tamano, I was one of the trainer of the security guard. But you know, we teach them protective security, that they should look into the constituent, even the janitor or even other members of the administration had to be protected. So we should look into this, MP Mawale, that the public safety under Brother Munoz, MP Munoz, should look into this and investigate, because this is threatening the abolition of the state university. If no Christians, if Maranos were being molested or killed, abused within the university, how much more for people who are not from Lanao? Because at times there was even a student or professor who was burned. Sinunog pa, pinatay. But nothing happened. How come? So we are very happy that we have established the bar wherein they should look into this. Even Iqbal should look into this, because it's under, the university is under the DepEd. So we should look into this. Even if it is a national institution, but yet, so far, this could be out of topic, but even yung ginawa ng bahay ng mga professor na already retired within the university, this must be investigated, because, you know, in UP, not a single professor or employee of the university have a house in UP, but the proliferation of buildings owned by private citizens is happening within the university. And this has to be included in the investigation, MP Mawali, because we lost the respect of others. They could just barge in the university, and the security guard don't look into the possibility that these people coming are even people who are trying to destroy the university. MP Mawali.
Thank you. I think that's the last, no?
Yeah, but I just like to add a little more. I agree with the proponent, Mr. Speaker. The reason why I'm asking these questions is there's a perceived notion that we are condoning this kind of crimes. But I'm glad that with the language of the resolution that we are condemning this act, and I am looking forward that this parliament, this government, although the Mindanao State University is not under this regional government, pero sana po makonsider natin magkaroon ng mga deterrent na initiative makakatulong sa loob ng MSU campus. Perhaps we could give assistance in terms of technology, kasi as what the MP, good gentleman from Marawi said, MSU campus is big campus. I understand that it is composed of 5 barangays. So it is really a challenge for us on how can we contribute to the this kinds of incidents will not happen in the future. And I support this resolution and hope that there will be a light at the end of the tunnel, that the investigation will yield the real what really transpired in this incident, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Mawalil. MP Baintan, Mampatuan, you're recognized to be followed by MP Maysara Damdaman Latif.
Mr. Speaker, I also support the post resolution. Mr. Speaker, I've heard the answer of what I'm supposed to ask, but if the good gentleman would allow later on that I would amend some of the wordings in order to improve it. I will not interpolate anymore, Mr. Speaker. But if he will not allow me to amend, I will interpolate.
Would the gentleman accept a possible amendments from MP Ampatuan to improve the motion?
In this case, we have to be united in looking into all the solution. And it is welcome if ever anybody here who could correct or make some amendments that will at least help in the investigation of the incident in the university. Because we cannot allow, as I said, that we cannot allow that there will be perpetration of killings in the university. No, a soul. We cannot replace a soul. Kung nasisira lang building, madali lang gawin ang building. Pero dalawang bata na inosente pinatay. Would we allow that these things will happen? So with that, by Entan, MP, it's okay with if there is an amendment to the resolution that I proposed.
MP Sani. MP Maysara Damdaman Latif.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. I would like to be co-author also of this measure. In response to MP Mawalil's statement a while ago, maybe the Bangsamoro government can extend assistance in the form of solar street lights as well as CCTV.
Yes.
I believe that in all modern jurisdictions and countries, one of the deterrents for a crime to happen is a well-lit streets. So if we have solar street lights all over the campus, plus strategic location of CCTVs, probably, Mr. Speaker, we will be able to help deter future criminals, as well as, of course, the other opinion that there should be more security personnel in strategic places in the areas that are inhabited by students, teachers, and faculties or administrators. So I would like to propose, Mr. Speaker, that the Bangsamoro government extend assistance in the form of technology like CCTVs, solar street lights to the MSU system, Mr. Speaker.
All right. Yes. We will deal with that. We will discuss about that particular amendment on the period of amendment. There's no other interpellators, I believe. So Majority Leader, would you please do us the honor of closing the period of amendment?
Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period of debate and interpellation.
Period of debate and interpellation has been moved. Any objection? Hearing none. Period of debate and interpellation is hereby closed.
Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of amendments.
Period of amendment is open. MP Ampatuan, please proceed with your amendment.
Mr. Speaker, this is a very simple, just on the wordings, Mr. Speaker. On paragraph, whereas number 4, my proposal, Mr. Speaker, is instead of using the word responsible, we change it to the word concerned agencies. Concern, pwedeng agencies na lang. And on the prayer close, urging concerned agencies, especially ang dulo, urging concerned agencies.
Into us, MP Ampatuan.
Last, now therefore be it resolved, but hereby resolved, but to strongly condemn the killing of Omar Zainal Amsal Rauf and urging concerned agencies, especially, instead of the word particularly, may E ata, yung especially. May E, before. Okay, that goes also with the title, Mr. Speaker. Just copy it with the title. Just a very minor, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
If the good proponent would allow.
Yes, but before the good proponent answer the request of the proponent, just like to posit a question regarding the use of Bangsamoro human rights. Just like to inquire perhaps to some of the lawyer members of the parliament, if this is a crime committed by a person to person, then I believe we have a concerned agency, particularly a concerned agency to handle this case. If it's a state-sponsored crime, then maybe the BCH may enter. But I think this is a ordinary crime committed by person. It's not really a state-sponsored crime. So I'm just trying to posit a question before the parliament. Perhaps our lawyers here, lawyer member, can enlighten us whether it's proper to use or to include BCH as part of an investigative team, since it has already been, I believe so, based on the status of the case, it's already been, the case has already been acted upon by the PNP, and the investigation is ongoing. So may we ask? But first, MP Duma, would you accept the proposed amendment of MP Ampatuan?
Yeah.
I think yes. MP Duma, MP Ang Bapat Duma, Sani. Would you accept the proposed amendment of MP Baintan?
It's okay, yes.
Yes, okay,
The
accepted.
amendment is acceptable, approved.
Accepted. Yes, MP, yeah, do we have further amendment, MP Baintan?
No more, Mr. Speaker.
Thank
Just
you
a
very
very
much.
minor.
Yes, my inquiry to the parliament, perhaps MP Maysara Damdaman Latif, can you enlighten us whether it is necessary or it is appropriate to include BCH as part of the
Mr.
investigative
Speaker,
team?
if the perpetrator is state or
Yes.
its instrumentalities,
Of
then
the
it would
state.
be appropriate that the BHRC investigate. However, if it's non-state actors, I don't think that it will be the BHRC to
Yes, because
investigate.
I'm also aware, somewhat aware of this particular incident. That based on the investigation, allegedly the perpetrator of the shooting is actually an outsider. He is not, or she or he is not part or any connected with any of the government agency, meaning a non-state actor, no?
So in
So
that
that's
case,
why I am more concerned about whether we should include BCH.
in that case,
Speaker.
maybe the proper word is not really to investigate, but rather to assist.
All
To
right.
assist concerned agencies in the investigation of the case. Just to assist, not to investigate, Mr. Speaker.
All right.
Because it will be conflict of jurisdiction. They do not have jurisdiction if the case was not perpetrated by state actors.
Okay. Maybe before we allow MP Maysara to proceed with the amendment, I believe the minority leader also has a reply to that inquiry that I just posited before the parliament. MP, the good minority leader, would you like to enlighten us here on the question whether there's a need to include Thank you. Being a former chairperson of the Regional Human Rights, maybe you can provide us an information or enlighten the parliament. Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker.
MP Malamit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. that is true if the crime is has not been, well, based on the investigation, if the crime has not been committed by an officer of the state or an agency related to the state, then the proper agency to investigate are the law enforcement agencies. However, Mr. Speaker, based on the resolution and what was narrated earlier by the good MP Dumasani as the nature of the crime, the Bangsamoro Human Rights Commission and the Commission on Human Rights would be the competent agency, would also be a competent agency to conduct a documentation, even if it is not an investigation, but a documentation, considering that this may be this is a form of gender-based violence, Mr. Speaker, based on the initial information as to the nature of the case and the previous cases that were mentioned by MP Dumasani that has occurred the Marawi State University, and the BHRC and the CHR at the national level are the gender ombud of the country, Mr. Speaker. And so anything that is related to gender can be a subject of documentation, study, investigation of the Bangsamoro Human Rights Commission. So in this case, other than, aside from it being gender related, the BHRC can also conduct an investigation where there may be an accountability issue with respect to a state agent, in this case, the MSU being a state university, and so it may form part, that angle may also form part of the recommendations that the BHRC may make. Their findings will not be looking into who is liable or who should be charged with the crime, but their findings will be the overall responsibilities and accountabilities of state institutions, Mr. Speaker. And so I believe that the BHRC is competent to conduct an investigation or a documentation by virtue of their role as a gender ombud and the overall agency that looks into the promotion of the rights of people, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much for that enlightening explanation, MP Lamia. MP Ras, do you
Yes,
have an
Mr.
additional? Yeah, do you have an additional
Yes, Mr.
manifestation?
Ang isang reason din po bakit it falls within the jurisdiction of the BHRC, kasi isang na-mention po sa whereas clauses, this is not the first killing. So ibig sabihin, ang isang focus din dito is kung maraming killing sa isang lugar, baka nagkaroon na ng yung mga tinatawag nating culture of silence, culture of impunity. So those are things that the BHRC was created for. Kasi yan po yung iniiwasan natin na mangyari sa Bangsamoro by the Bangsamoro. So yun po yung ayaw natin mangyari. Kasi dati ginagawa yan sa atin outside factor, pero ngayon kung nangyayari among us, something is wrong. So BHRC is there to make sure na yung culture of silence or impunity hindi po mangyari ulit. Yun lang po, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, MP Ras, for the additional explanation. MP Maysara Damdaman Latlip, would you proceed with your amendment?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, MP Deputy Speaker Omar Sema, I have already acknowledged, recognized MP Maysara, perhaps after MP Maysara.
Mr. Speaker, maybe
Thank you.
his inquiries related to the manifestations a while ago, maybe we can hear it before I make
All right,
my
MP
amendment.
Maysara is giving way to Deputy Speaker Omar Sema. Please proceed, MP Sema.
Mr. Chair, I think the very title of the resolution I think signifies the intent of the proponent. I think we should limit our amendments to that. Otherwise, we might be, as the discussions have been going on already, we might be condemning the Mindanao State University for something that they may have no part with, except that it is only that it is their responsibility to take care of the security and welfare of their students. And I believe, I truly believe that none of us had approached first the Mindanao State University on this matter. And it's just, I think we should observe due courtesy to the leadership of the Mindanao State University system. Actually, we are now a co-equal, we are both autonomous, though some portions of the Mindanao State University may be under the jurisdiction of the MBHTE, but it is just, I think, proper that we some sort make a reservation of due respect to the leadership of the Mindanao State University. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. In line with that manifestation of DS Omar, may I call for a 1-minute suspension? Session suspended. Session resumed. The honorable lady from Tugaya has the floor. Please proceed, MP Maysara, with
Yes,
your
Mr.
amendment.
Speaker. Since we already agreed that the BHRC is also one of the agencies concerned to seek the truth about this case, then we would like to propose that instead of making it appear that they have the primary duty to investigate instead of the police or law enforcement, we would submit, Mr. Speaker, that they assist in the investigation of the case instead of making it appear that it is the BHRC's primordial duty to investigate, because that would not be good for the case, Mr. Speaker, considering that I heard that the police, chief of police, Marawi City, is already conducting
Yes,
investigation.
the PNP has already taken custody.
Yes, and they
Okay.
already took jurisdiction of the case, Mr. Speaker. So in deference to the law enforcement agency, we would like to submit that the word to investigate be added the word to assist in the investigation of the case.
Can we go to the body of the resolution?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, in the title first, we would add the word to assist in the investigation of the case.
Okay. And can you go down, scroll down, so that the
Yes, in the dispositive
resolving clause in the
portion,
title is
in the
compatible
resolving
with each
clause,
other? Yes. The resolving clause.
so we add the word the Bangsamoro Human Rights Commission's to assist in the investigation of the case. That would be all, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Maysara. I think the gentleman, the honorable distinguished gentleman from Marawi, MP Duma, has agreed and accept the proposed amendment of MP Maysara. Yes, MP Duma, would you like to put that into record?
Okay, approve na yung ano.
Thank you.
Oo.
Thank you, MP Duma. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, can the Secretariat again read the language of those amendments proposed by the ladies from MP Ampatuan as well as the good lawyer, Maysara Latif?
Secretary General, Secretariat is requested to read the amended title and the resolving clause of the resolution.
A resolution strongly condemning the killing of Omar Zinal and Hamza Rauf and urging concerned agencies, especially the Bangsamoro Human Rights Commission, to assist in the investigation of the case. And in the dispositive portion, in the whereases, whereas this is not the first shooting incident that happened inside the campus and must be immediately addressed and acted upon by concerned agencies. And in the dispositive portion, now therefore be it resolved, as it is hereby resolved by the Parliament, to strongly condemn the killing of Omar Zinal and Hamza Rauf and urging concerned agencies, especially the Bangsamoro Human Rights Commission, to assist in the investigation of the case.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, is the proponent also adhere some proposed amendments? Because I would like to also add some amendments to that dispositive.
We have
clause,
Majority
Mr.
Leader.
Yes.
With due respect, Majority Leader, sorry. We have already closed the period of amendment. That's actually what the Majority Leader moved earlier. And we just asked the Secretariat to read the final version of the amended resolution. Unless the
yes,
Majority Leader would like to move for a consideration for the opening of the amendment, he can do so. But I just want to
precisely,
remind,
Mr. Speaker, because as I was reading to address this dispositive laws to the concerned agencies. To include with Mr. Speaker, is not only the Bangsamoro Human Rights Commission. Also to include is the Philippine National Police, PROBAR. Considering, Mr. Speaker, that the Philippine National Police has the investigative power and more knowledgeable in terms of seeking and looking for the immediate solution of the crime committed, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, I think for the information of the Parliament, the PRO BARM is being represented in the province by the Lanao del Sur PNP, and the Lanao del Sur PNP and Marawi PNP have already taken custody over the investigation of this crime. So no need to cite that up, but because the resolution in itself would just merely wants the PCH to assist the ongoing investigation, meaning PNP has already taken custody of the crime, and the BCH would just like to assist in the investigation to expedite to expedite the release, the justice for the victims, and as well as to end and resolve this crime. So may we adopt, Majority Leader?
Yes, in that case, Mr. Speaker, I will withdraw my proposed amendments and I submit to the wisdom of the good
Thank
Speaker.
you, Majority Leader. So we
Yes, I move to adopt the proposed resolution number 524, Mr. Speaker.
So there's a motion to adopt
Subject to
proposed
style,
resolution.
Mr. Speaker. Subject to style.
Yes, there's a motion to adopt proposed resolution on the amended proposed resolution number 524.
Subject to style.
Subject to style. Is there any objection to that motion? Hearing none, proposed resolution number 524 is hereby adopted.
Mr. Speaker, under next item is the proposed resolution number 526. Can the Secretariat read the title of the proposed resolution number 526?
Secretariat is so directed to read the title of PR 526.
Proposed resolution number 526, a resolution condemning the violence, discrimination, and murder committed against some members of LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender in the municipality of Datupiang last September 18 and 19, 2021.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of debate and interpellation.
The period of debate and interpellation on PR 526 is hereby open.
Mr. Speaker, may we allow the proponent of this proposed resolution to speak one by one so that
the distinguished lady from Maguindanao, MP Dr. Susana Anayatin, Salvador Anayatin is recognized.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker and Majority Floor Leader. Datupiang or Dulawan is the oldest municipality in the entire province of Cotabato and extends up to General Santos City before. So on September 18, Mr. Speaker, Saturday, allegedly a hand grenade or IED exploded at 3:39 p.m. while a volleyball match was ongoing at a covered court in Barangay Poblacion, Datupiang, Maguindanao. The said barangay incident resulted to one fatality while injuring 7 others. Several reports appeared to be the cause of the explosion. Others pointed out as an attack of an armed group, while others relate the said attack to the sexual preferences of the 8 victims. Nevertheless, such acts should be condemned. Mr. Speaker, another killing attack happened on the evening of September 19, 2021. The victim was a lesbian. The most condemning part was that she was shot dead in her own residence. The assailant unlawfully entered her premises and violently killed her. with multiple gunshots. Settled as it is, human life is precious. Thus, Mr. Speaker, the Constitution provides for its value and protection. No one has the license to unfairly treat any person on the account of race, ethnicity, religion, beliefs, or sexual preference. The freedom to choose, particularly on sexual preference, is internationally recognized, and their rights are ought to be respected. Mr. Speaker, we recognize that the case is still pending, and to speculate the cause is preempting the procedure. However, the victims, being all of them, are members of the LGBT community, they must be given protection, and they must feel protected by the community and the government. Thus, this resolution seeks to uphold the inviolability of human life, regardless of their sexual preferences or personal beliefs. Hence, this resolution, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Susana Salvador Anayatin. Is there any member who wish to interpolate, to inquire?
Mr. Speaker,
Who's that? I'm sorry, I cannot see.
MP Hashim. No audio po.
We lost the audio.
Naghang sila. Naghang.
Tayo.
Ayun, gumalaw na si ano, gumalaw si Zia.
Wala talaga yung audio.
Walang audio.
Okay, again, MP Abdullah Hashim, please proceed with your interpellation.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Mr. Speaker, if the honorable proponents would allow, I would like to ask some questions.
MP Anayatin.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed, MP Hashim.
So, Mr. Speaker, in the proposed resolution, it is written there that there were, or it was mentioned that there were 8 victims of the blast. While in the speech of the honorable proponent, MP Anayatin, one was killed. Actually, I searched it in the news articles, and there are actually conflicting, apparent conflicting reports of either 8 wounded or 7 wounded and 1 killed. So I'm inquiring if the proponents are aware of this. Secondly, the next victim, which was also mentioned in the article, in the proposed resolution, which is said to have been killed. I have failed to find any news report of this, so I am eager to know where the honorable proponents have taken this information. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, this representation with her staff visited Datupiang in the morning of September 20. We personally saw to ourselves some of the victims who were confined in a local hospital. We were welcomed by the head of the hospital herself, Dr. Elizabeth Gumama. So we were told that some of the victims were already sent home. The 3 are still in the hospital, while there was 1 at the CRMC and at the IPHO. In total, there were 8 victims, Mr. Speaker, and unfortunately 1 died. That was the account before us by the chief of the hospital herself. And then afterwards, we went to the municipal mayor and we got the same information about the incident, Mr. Chair. Did I answer your question?
Yes,
Mr.
Mr.
Speaker?
Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have
And
further interpol.
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, may I make a manifestation?
Yeah, please
In the name-
proceed, MP Hashim.
Yes. Bismillah. I would like to make a manifestation that I condemn any harm, violence, or killing against any human being, and such actions are actually un-Islamic, and it is from those who seek to sow chaos or terrorism, or those who have a misguided understanding of this beautiful faith. As the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has warned the Muslims of killing their fellow non-Muslim citizens, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, "Whoever kills a person who is granted the agreement of protection by the Muslims shall not smell the fragrance of paradise, though its fragrance can be smelled at a distance of 40 years journey." That is all, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, MP Hashim. I would like to associate myself with the manifestation of the gentleman from Maguindanao, MP Hashim Abdullah. May I ask the proponent, are all the victims a member of the LGBT community?
That was the information we gathered, Mr. Speaker. They are all members of the LGBT community.
And has the police already at least identified the possible suspects of this crime?
Due to lack of time, Mr. Speaker, we were not able to go to the police station because we went to the hospital, to the mayor, and the church nearby.
Thank you very much for that information, MP Anayatin. We
Mr. Speaker.
recognize the good minority leader, MP Liza Alamia, MP Rasul Mitmag, and Deputy Speaker Omar Sema in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the proponent yield to questions that I would like, some clarificatory questions that I would like to ask?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to clarify in the resolution as to the facts that are included there, that these victims were indeed members of the LGBT community, and that these attacks happened on separate dates. Would the proponent know if there were other instances of discrimination, harassment, and even crimes that were committed against those identified with the LGBT community, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Yes, Mr. Speaker. In previous years, I recall, there were also LGBTs who were victimized while doing some entertainment related to the town fiesta. They were shot, Mr. Speaker, but hindi po sila pinatamaan sa mga paalang. Parang pananakot lang po. That was done in previous years for the LGBT community. Now this time, these LGBT members who really accepted that they are members of the LGBT communities are doing some business in the poblacion of Datupiang by catering services, meaning they cook some food when there are orders, and then they also do some decorations when there are kalilang or kanduli or festivities in the poblacion. They are not from the poblacion, but from the nearby barangays of Datupiang. So unfortunately, in that afternoon of Saturday, that incident happened. We do not know yet the motive, but they accepted that they are all LGBTs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for that answer. I know this is very painful for the victims, the families of the victims, and all of us all of us are human beings, and this is painful to all of us, Mr. Speaker. I would like to be associated with this resolution, Mr. Speaker, and would like to say that any discrimination, harassment, inhumane treatment, and even crimes that are committed, such as murder, torture, and embarrassing members of the LGBT community and other sectors, but especially the LGBT community, is against the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, and it is also against the conventions and United Nations treaties that the Philippines has or is a signatory to, which includes the protection of all people, regardless of race, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity, or to which kind of orientation they would like to be identified with. This is against the law, Mr. Speaker. But I just like, before I continue, I would like to confirm with the proponent if has the BARM through the Parliament ever made a statement officially condemning any harassment, any discrimination against any sector of our society, particularly the LGBTQ community, considering the series of crimes that have been committed against them, Mr. Speaker? I would like to know if the proponent would know that.
Mr. Speaker, so far, I think this is the first resolution condemning such act of violence against the LGBT communities. But I would like to pass on to my co-author, MP Maysara Latif. Mr. Speaker.
MP Maysara Latif,
Yes,
please
Mr.
take over. You're
Speaker, in
recognized.
response to the minority floor leader, on August 6, 2021, Mr. Speaker, I filed the resolution 486 calling on the Bangsamoro Transition Authority to adhere to the United Nations human rights and condemn the public shaming of six young women whose heads were shaved in public view in the province of Maguindanao. And this was actually the result of a fact-finding investigation in aid of legislation by one of our members, and also a report from the Bangsamoro Women Commission that states that there were 6 women who were punished for being part of LGBTQ community, and they were taken unwillingly from the respective houses by a group of men who rounded them up, shaved their heads, and paraded them in the town's park stage, where they were mocked by people who witnessed the incidents. While the act is being committed, several people took video of the shaving and shaming and uploaded it to social media. These people who took the video were wearing uniforms, Mr. Speaker, and the victims were told that they were taken for purpose of some sort of tarbiyah and several other reasons. Little did they know that they were accused of being part of LGBTQ. The parents were also not aware of the reasons as to why their children were being held at a particular place. This happened, Mr. Speaker, last June 8, 2021, in a town called Ampatuan, Maguindanao. So this is not the first time. This is actually the second time that this parliament condemns to the highest degree human rights violation committed against the LGBTQ community.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the good MP Maysara Latif for raising this issue earlier. And now we have a second statement a resolution that will condemns the same act. I think, Mr. Speaker, it is high time that we should stop and control this culture of impunity and culture of silence in our society, in the Bangsamoro society, when it comes to the protection of the rights of those who have different preferences with respect to their identity. And that does not diminish their being humans, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Do you have further interpellation, MP Liza?
Considering that, Mr. Speaker, I fully support this resolution, Mr. Speaker, and call on the Bangsamoro government to conduct an investigation through any of its agencies, especially the Bangsamoro Human Rights Commission. I will be making the proper proposed amendments, Mr. Speaker, during the period of amendment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Liza Lamia. MP Ras, please proceed with your interpellation.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you for the time. Mr. Speaker, my first question is already answered by the queries of our minority floor leader. But I would just like to clarify itong portion na to, Mr. Speaker. Whereas the Bangsamoro government should develop a concrete action plan to stop violence due to prejudice and discrimination that affects the actually it's LGBTQ++ na ngayon, di ba? Community in all areas and spaces in BARM territories. So after our first call, Mr. Speaker, it was clarified by MP Latif that we already condemned it for the first time, and this will be the second time. Ibig sabihin, from that time, yung June 18, 2021 until this time, wala tayong set measures on how these people can contact us, how the Bangsamoro government can protect them. Yun po yung tanong ko, Mr. Speaker.
MP Anayatin.
I have no sufficient information, Mr. Speaker, if something was done by the BARM government to preempt or to deter this kind of violence or atrocities against the LGBT community.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that answer, Mr. Speaker. So I believe this second resolution is but proper, Mr. Speaker, and maybe during the period of amendments, I will join the minority floor leader that there should be agencies of our Bangsamoro government that should be addressing this situation, Mr. Speaker. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, MP Ras. Deputy Speaker Sema, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Floor Leader. I would like to ask the proponent, Mr. Speaker, a few questions and maybe suggest something that would improve the resolution. You said, Madam Proponent, that you have visited the municipality right after the incident and you have talked to the mayor. Am I correct?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
And in your discussion and conversation with the mayor, had you had any time of asking if there were previous incidents in their municipality similar to what had occurred?
Mr. Speaker, I already mentioned a while ago that in the past years, not during the term of this incumbent mayor, there were already acts of violence perpetrated against the LGBTs while they were performing some entertainment numbers related to the celebration of the town fiesta. They were shot, Mr. Speaker, pero hindi naman po sila pinatamaan. At that really scared them. Yung iba migrated, locally migrated to avoid such kind of discrimination and violence.
Yes. Now, in your conversation with the mayor, have you asked him, had they done anything to prevent the incident even prior to the occurrence of that latest incident?
Indirectly, Mr. Speaker, we were told that the violence is being investigated by the PNP in their municipality. But as to an action plan specific to protect the LGBTs, there was no mention about it.
Meaning they had no plan, they had no plans even before the latest incident occurred.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
So, do you believe that this incident should have been taken care of at the level of the local government unit?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, because it is a function of the chief executive of the local government unit to protect and uphold the welfare of their constituencies at all times.
So in that case, do you believe that while we are now in relation to the to the uh, to the legislation of one of our priority of our mandates, yung the local governance code, that there should be a specific provision that local government units should see to it that they protect their citizens, their constituents, regardless of religion, sexual orientation, or sexual preference.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, because the constitution, our constitution says it so, and other international documents such as the United Nations.
So it should be
I believe
included.
that provision must also be enshrined in the
It
local
should be
government
included
units so that the local chief executives will be aware that they have to protect all their constituents, regardless of ethnicity, religious beliefs, and ideologies or gender.
So thank you, Madam Proponent. Mr. Speaker, I believe that's it. Those are just my question. But before I end, Mr. Speaker, I would like to manifest that I personally condemn such violent acts committed against our fellow human beings, regardless of religion, race, creed, sexual orientation, and there is no place in a civilized society for such acts to be committed. As we aspire to build a Bangsamoro government that is just and fair to all its constituency. In the future, I will propose a provision in the local governance code that will ensure the protection of all our constituency. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker Omar. Is there anyone who wish to interpolate? None.
As a
Majority Leader?
manifestation, Your Honor,
Yes, please proceed, Deputy Speaker Tan.
I would like to associate myself with this resolution resolution.
Thank you, DS Tan, for that. Noted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, MP Susana Anayatin. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period of debate and interpellation.
There's a motion to close the period of debate on PR number 526. Is there any objection? The period of debate interpellation is hereby closed.
Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of amendments.
Period of amendment is open. The good minority leader, please proceed with your amendment. MP Liza Lamia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can we proceed to the last part, Mr. Speaker? The last three whereases. In the resolution, if the if the proponent would agree, it says that the second to the last, whereas the Bangsamoro government should develop a concrete action plan to stop violence due to prejudice and discrimination. I agree with that, Mr. Speaker, but I propose that part of the penultimate paragraph, now therefore be it resolved, would include an additional paragraph that would say, after the now therefore be it resolved, that would remain, and then another paragraph resolved further that the Bangsamoro, the Office of the Chief Minister, the Bangsamoro government headed by the Office of the Chief Minister is hereby urged to develop a concrete action plan for the protection and promotion of the rights of LGBTQ++ community in all areas and spaces in BARM territories.
Resolved further that the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or that the Bangsamoro government, through the Office of the Chief Minister, shall develop a concrete action plan to promote and protect the rights of the LGBTQ++ community in all areas and spaces in BARM territories. Shall develop a concrete, similar to the second to the last whereas, develop a concrete action plan to promote and protect the rights of the LGBTQ community in all areas and spaces in BARM territories. In all spaces.
Just copy and paste the second to the last whereas sa taas. In BARM territories.
Small letter lang yung territory, yung letter T.
Period. LGBTQ++. I think that's the correct, yes. Thank you. That's my proposed amendment, Mr. Speaker, if the proponent would accept. Thank you.
Yeah, but before we ask the proponent, I call for a suspension. Session suspended. Anayatin, are you amenable to the proposed amendment of MP Liza Alamia?
I yield, Mr. Speaker.
So you accept. Okay, thank you, MP Anayatin. Anybody from the Zoom
Yes,
would
Mr.
like to
Speaker.
introduce?
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Deputy Speaker Sema, MP Ras Mitmug, and then to be followed by MP Hashim. In that order. DS Omar, please proceed with your amendment.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I would like to further amend the amendment proposed by the minority floor leader, if she would allow it, that it should include also a direction for the local government units to also develop a concrete action plan. Not only the Bangsamoro government, this has to be a whole of government approach, not just the Bangsamoro government. So I would like to include a praise, resolve further that the Bangsamoro government, through the Office of the Chief Minister and all other local government units and all other constituent local government units shall develop a concrete action plan to promote and protect the rights of LGBTQ community in all areas and spaces of the Bangsamoro territory.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, what's the pleasure of the majority leader?
Before the good speaker can act to the proposed resolution of the deputy speaker, can you direct the secretariat to furnish us a copy of the manifestation of MP Hashim? And I would move, Mr. Speaker, that his line or his manifestation a while ago can be part of this resolution. Because I believe, Mr. Speaker, that the pronouncement or the manifestation of the good MP is, shall we say, more giving more protection, equal protection to the rights of every human being, Mr. Speaker.
But before I respond to the manifestation of majority leader, I'd like to first deal with the specific proposed amendment of DS Omar.
I still
To
proceed.
amend
Still
the
proceed.
already
Actually,
adopted amendment.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes, MP Omar. Yes,
actually,
DS Omar.
the
Yes.
manifestation of the majority floor leader is part of my amendment also.
Okay. Anyway, the manifestation of DS Hashim earlier was delivered during the period of debate, and there was no intention, I believe, based on the exchanges of MP Abdullah Hashim and the lady proponent, that MP Hashim would like to introduce that in the period of amendment. We will just simply wait because he has already raised his hand. The presiding officer has already recognized him, and maybe perhaps based on that manifestation of his, he would draw possible amendments to this resolution, majority leader. So we will wait until MP Hashim to give him that due respect that he will be the one to introduce.
1 minute suspension, Mr. Speaker.
Session suspended.
Mr. Speaker, hindi pa ako tapos.
Session resumed. DS Omar, do you have further
Yeah, Mr. Speaker,
amendment?
it's not yet done, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, please proceed, MP DS Omar.
All other constituent local government units of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. Now, Mr. Speaker, another resolved finally.
DS Omar, with due respect, may we ask MP Anayatin to, if it's okay with her, or is she amenable to this particular amendment of yours before we proceed to another amendment that you will propose, so that we can move smoothly?
I yield, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Resolved finally.
Okay, please proceed with your another amendment, MP DS Omar.
That copies of this resolution be furnished to the Office of the Chief Minister and to the Office of the Ministry of Interior and Local Government
And to the ministry.
and to the Ministry of Interior and Local Government for appropriate action.
Amendment.
Will the proponent accept my amendment, Mr. Speaker?
MP Anayatin, do you accept?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we accept.
Accepted, MP Omar.
Yes,
DS Omar.
Mr. Speaker. With respect to the manifestation of, because I was going to propose also as an amendment in the body, the manifestation of the good gentleman from Pagalungan, that his statement be part of the main body of the whereas clauses, Mr. Chair, so that this should be supported by proper philosophical and
Hadith reference.
religious reference, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Maybe later on, DS Omar, we would ask MP Hashim to restate again that particular basis he has mentioned, he has quoted, to be included in the proposed resolution should the good gentleman from Pagulungan so desires to accede to the request of MP Toy and DS Omar Sema. So we proceed with MP Rasmit Mag with his proposed amendments.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, actually the amendment has already been captured by MP Alamia and Minority Floor Leader Alamia and Deputy Speaker Omar Sema. But I would just like to note, Mr. Speaker, that what we use in the resolve clause is LGBTQ++. We change all those with the references with LGBTQ++, Mr. Speaker. We add the Q stands for queer, QUEER. And the plus actually means to cover everything, but you don't need to put it there.
So you simply want the solving clause to be similar with the title. MP Rasmit Mag, is that it?
The term, the term for the community, Mr. Speaker, be consistent in the whole body, and also for it to be consistent with the title later. That's just it, Mr. Speaker.
Noted. So please, Secretariat, make the proper correction so it would appear consistent. MP Abdullah Hashim, please proceed with your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, actually, I was not planning to include my speech into the resolution, but as per the wisdom of the uh, Deputy Speaker and the Deputy Majority Floor Leader, perhaps I would propose to include just the mention of the hadith. So perhaps in the upper part, after the one, two, three, four, after the fourth whereas clause, after enjoy these rights, I no before
Fourth,
that, before that,
fourth whereas clause.
after the fourth whereas clause, sa taas pa. Yes, yan. Sa taas nung whereas the victims were playing. Yeah. Yes. After the can enjoy these right again. Yes. So whereas the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has forbidden the Muslims from killing their fellow non-Muslim citizens. As from non-Muslim citizens, as stated in the hadith, whoever kills a person who is granted the agreement of protection by the Muslims shall not smell the fragrance of paradise, though its fragrance can be smelled at a distance of 40 years journey. So whoever kills a person who is granted the agreement of protection, granted the agreement of protection by the agreement of protection by the Muslims shall not smell the fragrance of paradise. The fragrance of paradise, though its fragrance can be smelled at a distance of 40 years journey. Can be smelled at a distance of 40 years journey. Is the honorable proponent willing to accept?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we yield.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. May I? Yes. Before we act on that's been accepted.
Mr. Speaker,
may
a
I
matter of
just-
styling. It's a
Speaker,
matter of
I move
styling.
to 1 minute suspension, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, session suspended.
Speaker, a matter of style lang
sit up.
Jumping jack tapos mga calisthenics.
Session
Ayan, ayan,
resumed.
ayan.
It has been agreed on the floor that perhaps it is proper that we do not specifically spell out the name of the seal of the prophets of the Almighty God, and instead just simply say hadith. That is the unanimous decision, all members here present in the plenary.
Mr. Speaker.
MP Maisara, would you
Mr.
confirm
Speaker.
the manifestation of the
Speaker.
presiding officer?
It's supposed to be my proposed style.
Mr. Speaker, yes, it captures the essence of the
Mr. Speaker.
messaging that it is in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that whoever kills a person who is granted the agreement of protection shall not smell the fragrance of paradise. So maybe, Mr. Speaker, it would be much more proper if we mention that in a hadith. So not necessarily put the entire phrase, the Prophet forbidden. So it would be more
Mr. Speaker, matter of style
efficient.
a while ago.
Yes, subject to style, Mr. Speaker. So they agree.
Thank you.
Mr.
Yes,
Speaker,
Omar, do you have
may
further?
I be allowed to style?
Please,
Mr.
DS
Speaker.
Omar, please proceed.
Yeah, the styling should be, I hope this will be agreed upon, whereas it is forbidden. Whereas it is forbidden for Muslims to kill their fellow non-Muslims as stated in the hadith.
Full stop.
Full stop. It is
That is much proper.
Whereas it is forbidden for Muslims to kill their fellow non-Muslims as stated in the hadith. Full stop. Let us remove the full text of the hadith, Mr. Speaker.
That we accept the amendment to the amendment.
Any further amendment? MP Mai,
Mr. Speaker,
regarding the, yes, MP Hashim, do you accept that we would make it more general without necessarily citing the name of the last of the prophet of God?
yes, and of course, I'm not one of the proponents, but actually, my original amendment, which is just a small amendment based on my quick interpolation. So in the whereas clause after that, and then the whereas clause after it, when it reads, the victims were playing volleyball when the bomb explosion occurred. Diyan sa baba, this is just a quick amendment. When the bomb, when the bomb explosion occurred, wounding 7 and killing 1, because based on the answer of the honorable proponent to be clear of the facts, killing 1, remove of them, and then remove A and
Add S.
members. Yeah, add S to member. That's all, Mr. Speaker.
Accepted, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Anayatin. MP Mai, we were discussing earlier about the word that was used or was introduced as part of the amendment.
Yes, Mr.
Yes.
Speaker. We would like to the last one, because in the previous resolution that we filed, 486, we condemn and ask protection, Mr. Speaker. So to be consistent, protection to protect So we would like to look at the dispositive portion just to maintain the protection, Mr. Speaker. The word protection and promotion. Can we look back at the dispositive portion? The word, Mr. Speaker, so develop, instead of concrete action plan, because action plan is just a plan, concrete measures, Mr. Speaker, because if it's just a plan, it may or may not be acted upon because it's just a plan. So we seek that it would be concrete measures to protect, to develop, to develop concrete measures. And then to implement concrete measures, not develop, Mr. Speaker. Instead of develop, implement to protect the rights of LGBTQ community. Because the essence, Mr. Speaker, is really to protect them against any form of violence, harassment, or discrimination.
MP Anayatin? Yeah, you're the proponent. I'm sorry, MP Maysara. So no need to ask MP Manayatin. MP Maysara is one of the main proponent. Okay. Any other proposed amendment? No? Majority Leader?
Is there any members who wishes to introduce some amendments, Mr. Speaker?
I think that would be all. I think all of them have already proposed their amendment. So we will proceed, the Majority Leader, because
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period
PM.
of amendments and
There's a motion to close the period of amendment. Is there any objection? Hearing none. No objection. It's been seconded. The period of amendment is hereby closed.
can the Secretariat, Mr. Speaker, read the entire language for the proposed amendments?
Second, dead version.
So should we directly adopt the proposed resolution, Majority Leader? Can you make a motion?
Okay, for that, Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt the proposed resolution number 526, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Subject
Second.
to style, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry, who's that?
Subject to
Second
style.
motion. Subject to style daw, sabi ni Omar.
Okay, so the motion has been duly seconded. PR resolution number 526 is hereby adopted, subject to style.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Congratulations, MP Anayatin. Majority Leader.
To move further, Mr. Speaker, under item number 11, item number 13, third and final stage, none. Item number 14, other matters. Is there any member who wishes to avail the other matters, Mr. Speaker?
None.
Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I move to adjourn this session until tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Session is adjourned until tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.